Good Kaue Pickers, we're back at it again for UFC 330 Makhachev versus Machado Garry. Now we're going to be doing the UFC fight predictions starting from the beginning of the card all the way up to the main event. Now, James is taking this week off. He's going to be traveling, so we're just going to have to make do with just me. But we're going to get some good predictions and picks here. Now for this card, UFC 330, first fight on the card, we're going to go into a deep dive on this card. Jeremiah Wells versus Myktybek Orolbai. I got Myktybek Orolbai by any means necessary, any which way he wants. There's the deep dive. Next fight, we got Magny versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Now, this is lined pretty close. They got Magny at a plus 102, Ramiz Brahimaj at minus 122. Now, this is close to a pick'em, but Magny, the way he loses, he tends to, well, he does get finished. We see that some of his losses are early in fights, and he does find himself in chokes from time to time. And even with his two recent fights, he won that fight against Jake Matthews, but that's a little bit of an asterisk because it looked like he was finished by Jake Matthews already early in the fight. But the referee let the fight keep going, even though he was out. So that's kind of a, you could say, controversial win right there against Jake Matthews. And then the second fight, he was choked again early in the fight against Yaroslav Amosov. But yeah, Magny finds himself in some nasty chokes. And against Ramiz Brahimaj, all this guy does is finds the sub. Guillotine choke. He finished Mickey Gall, right hook. Dembo Garembo, unanimous decision loss there. So if he finds himself in a longer fight against Magny, maybe he could lose there if Magny just finds a way to just keep it in the clinch, strike from the outside, and make it a grueling, hard to finish bout, and just find himself winning by points, Magny by points. But Magny is 39 years old, and his last two fights, he found himself getting his long neck exposed via choke. And Brahimaj, this is what I'm going to say. I think Brahimaj is just such a good submission artist in this game, and I do think he will find Magny's neck. And I think the only way Magny wins is probably via decision, but even then, it's going to be a hard fight to predict here, but I'm going to go Ramiz Brahimaj by submission. And I think this is where Magny starts to find his losses at his age, 39 at welterweight. I got Ramiz Brahimaj here. Next fight, we got Rafael Tobias versus Fernando. This fight is pretty low-level fight here. I mean, Rafael Tobias, he just lost to DR, who just knocked out Bruno Lopez last week. And I just don't think Rafael Tobias is that skilled. He has some wins here, a lot of finishes, and he's a very physical fighter. Fernando, we've seen him before. He's been fighting UFC caliber fighters before. In his loss against Asmat Bukayev, he went all the way to a decision there. Cesar Almeida, he went to a decision there. So he's seen some better competition, and he's also on a winning streak here. I'm just not sold on Tobias. I think he's a little raw. Fernando, I'm going to give him a slight edge here. Not my biggest confident pick here, but I'll go Fernando here. I'll say decision. I say this fight goes to decision. Now, Vicente Luque versus Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore, we showed he has a lot of heart in that Asmat Bukayev fight. He got knocked down early in the fight and fought his way back to find his trademark guillotine choke and locked it in for the win. Now, he had a couple losses here. Got knocked out by Marco Tulio and Rodolfo Vieira, who was kind of suspect, but was still able to win. And defeat Tresean Gore in that fight. Now, as for Vicente Luque, obviously, he does look like a shell of himself. He doesn't look like he has the heart that he used to have ever since that grueling bout versus Jeff Neal. And ever since then, I think he's been a little bit gun shy and trying to avoid damage. And in his last 2 losses against Kevin Holland, Joel Alvarez, we saw that he kind of shies away from the fight now these days. But he did get the win against Kelvin Gastelum by submission and a counter choke. Now, obviously, I'm going to say that Vicente Luque overall is the better fighter everywhere. The only part where Tresean Gore is better than Luque is having the heart, having the dog to fight through adversity at this point of their careers. And man, even though I say that, I still think Luque is better than Tresean Gore. He may even find the guillotine here, but I think Vicente Luque is just too good of a submission artist. And I'm not sure if I can see that unless it's like a club and sub. So I could see him getting like a club and sub on Vicente Luque. Kevin Holland was able to do it, submission and a counter choke. Why not Tresean Gore? But I'm going to side with the underdog here. I'm going to go Vicente Luque. I'm not too confident on it. Who knows, later down the week, I may pick flip, but right now I'm going to go Vicente Luque. Now for Donte Johnson versus Eric McConico. This fight's pretty basic. I think Eric McConico is going to be the more technical fighter everywhere. And Donte Johnson is just a supreme athlete, pretty much a beast. And he's going to have the power advantage. He can find you a finish, but he's a little sloppy at times, and he doesn't look that technical when he fights, especially that Cody Brundage split decision. I mean, that fight could have gone either way, and he didn't have to make it such a hard fight for him to win if he kind of just a little bit more disciplined with his striking and, yeah, just using his physicality. So this fight, Donte Johnson's pretty big favorite, minus 235 or higher. This could end up being like an upset potential, but I'm going to side with Donte Johnson. Eric McConico has been finished before. He's been knocked out. I'm going to ride with Donte Johnson finding the knockout eventually. And that's what I'm going to go with. But yeah, I'm probably not going to touch this fight at all. Now for this next fight, this is going to be a striking affair. There's going to be some fun exchanges here. Jalin Turner versus Kaue Fernandes. Kaue Fernandes has some nasty kicks. He can put together a pretty good striking game plan and mix in his punching. And yeah, he's going to be the shorter fighter here, 5'9" versus 6'3". But if he can just stay away from the power of Jalin Turner, his kicks can be a problem against Jalin Turner's tarantula legs. So in this one, let's see, Jalin Turner, Kaue Fernandes. Okay, I think this is maybe not the best. Yeah, they don't have the full stats on this fight. I'm going to say Jalin Turner, but he's pretty untrustworthy as a slight favorite. I'm not sure if I would jump on it right now, but as the time being, I'm going to lean with the explosiveness, the size, and the danger, and the level of competition that he's been fighting over his career. I think it's way better than Kaue Fernandes has fought. But yeah, I mean, the Grom Kutsuladze fight, that's a good win there. But Jalin Turner, everyone he's fought, before the fight, you'd think that he can finish any of these guys. But yeah, it's just a mental game for Jalin Turner. We don't know what version of him is going to come out. So I'm going to go Jalin Turner, potentially finding the TKO in this fight. Now, Chidi Njokuani versus Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez is getting used to this new weight class, welterweight. He was a bit of a weight bully, bit of a size advantage in lightweight. But now he tested the waters against Yaroslav Amosov and was submitted. Amosov is a pretty good fighter. He can potentially crack some of the contenders at welterweight, but this was the first fight that Joel Alvarez was in, and I believe, Joel Alvarez is taking this fight on short notice, so that must mean he's pretty confident that he can win this fight, even on short notice, and he's ready for this. So against Chidi Njokuani, who has that the long striking, Muay Thai. He was finished by Jake Matthews via submission, rear naked choke. That is a hole in his game. If you're able to get Chidi down, and if you're a submission artist, you may be able to find his neck, find a submission on him, which Joel Alvarez has submission wins under his belt. He can find a Darce choke. Yeah, he has nasty Darce, guillotine chokes. So any type of choke, it's in Joel Alvarez's bag. And as for Chidi, he was able to survive Carlos Leal's pressure, but you see him starting to fade in the later rounds, and that's not really promising if you have Joel Alvarez pressuring you throughout the fight, coming forward and throwing some nasty strikes as well. Even though Chidi, I believe, is the more technical, I think Joel Alvarez throws more damaging potential blows. So I'm going to go with Joel Alvarez. It could be by sub if they end up on the ground, but I think Joel Alvarez, when he lands, I think it's more impactful. I think it can sway the judges if it goes to a decision. And even potentially, if it ends up on ground and pound, if Chidi gets rocked, that's also potential there. But I'll go Joel Alvarez in this spot. He's a pretty big favorite. I think he's a minus 270 right now. Now this fight, Esteban Ribovics versus Edson Barboza. Man, Edson Barboza is so old. And you can see it from his last 3 fights. Man, I mean, the Lerone Murphy one, he was surviving that fight. He showed some heart and even got Lerone Murphy in like 1 or 2 scary situations with his kicks. And as for Jakar Close, lost unanimous decision there. Jalin Turner just starched by Jalin Turner with an elbow, I believe. And yeah, this is not the same Barboza. This is probably a highlight reel show out spot for Esteban Ribovics to get his bounce back loss from Mateusz Gamrot, who was just finished last week via sub. We're not going to have to see any grappling too much from Barboza, so I think Ribovics should be fine. And Ribovics should be pushing the pressure and throwing that volume, and whichever way it goes, if it's a decision or via TKO win, I think Ribovics is just too young, too much closer to his prime than Edson Barboza. And I think Edson Barboza should be retiring anytime soon. So give me Esteban Ribovics. I don't know if I'd touch the minus 540 line that I've seen on here. Yeah, minus 540, that's kind of crazy, but yeah, big favorite for Esteban Ribovics. Now, Mansur Abdul-Malik versus Dustin Stoltzfus. This is set up to be like a layup spot for Mansur Abdul-Malik to bounce back from his Yusri Balguri loss, which he took a lot of damage in that fight. Man, he was getting pieced up a lot. He couldn't get the grappling going. Coming up against Dustin Stoltzfus, this guy is a dog. 2 decision losses against Ruziboyev. Man, you survive a decision against Ruziboyev, that's pretty decent, pretty good there. Kelvin Gastelum went to decision, unanimous. Couldn't withstand the striking of Gastelum style. Mansur Abdul-Malik really had his first real test against Yusri, and Stoltzfus has been in there with a lot of guys. And I'm going to say I think Mansur will win, but this can have some upset potential on here on the Dustin Stoltzfus side. I wouldn't be surprised if Stoltzfus finds a way to get a submission or wears on Mansur down the stretch if he's able to survive the first 2 rounds. Mansur Abdul-Malik gets fatigued and Stoltzfus somehow finds a finish via submission or something like that. Maybe even steal a round in round 2 and maybe end up getting a split decision win. Who knows? But yeah, give me Mansur Abdul-Malik. Probably the one that gives me the most trappy vibes in this card. So yeah, I'm staying away from this one. Stoltzfus is live, even as a big, heavy underdog. So beware. Charles Johnson versus Jose Ochoa. Energy. I'm an Energy fan, but he's 35 and he's been fighting a lot this year. He's going back to back. His last fight was a month and a week ago. Fight before that was 4 months and 3 weeks ago. And then he was just knocked out 6 months ago. And now he's back at it again against a very dangerous, hard fight against Jose Ochoa. Jose Ochoa was putting the beat down against Clayton Carpenter. I was there in New Jersey to witness it myself, and Jose Ochoa paid handsomely. So he had way better odds against Clayton Carpenter. Now that everybody knows who he is, now he's a heavy, heavy favorite now. Minus 355, I think he's like a minus 420. He's a minus 420 right now. Jose Ochoa, no, he's not a minus 420. He's a minus 500. There must be something going on. Is there some sort of insider information on what's going on? I don't know, but damn, wow, minus 500 against Charles Johnson. Wow, that seems like a lot. But I mean, I think Jose Ochoa is going to have a lot of motivation here to get the win. He's dangerous everywhere. He has skills in the grappling. He was able to withstand the grappling of Asu Almabayev, which Charles Johnson was not able to do. And yeah, his striking is just pretty nasty and pretty sharp and dangerous, especially in rounds 1 and 2 against Clayton Carpenter. Carpenter was getting pieced up everywhere, getting knocked back, just very dangerous. Charles Johnson, as we know, he's knocked out Joshua Van, the current champ, and he's a bit of a prospect killer himself, defeating Loner Kavanaugh just 11 months ago. But I think at this age, too many fights back to back to back. I don't know if this is a good idea for Charles Johnson energy as much as I like him. I'm going to go Jose Ochoa here. I think he has all the motivation. Rest in peace to his good friend. I am running a blank on his first name, but is Nascimento. Rest in peace to him. Man, I think this is going to be a good fight. I think Jose Ochoa is going to have this in the bag. Minus 500, though, against energy, that seems crazy. But yeah, I'm probably not going to bet it. But Jose Ochoa's, I think, is my prediction here. So give me Jose Ochoa. Now for the co-main event, Mackenzie Dern versus Jalin Robertson. Jalin Robertson has been going on a run, winning streak, Pauliana Viana knockout, Michelle Watterson, Luana Pinheiro decision, Marina Rodriguez, KO decision, Madalemos decision, unanimous. As for Mackenzie Dern, the Verna Jandiroba, close fight, but she was able to piece up Jandiroba enough in that fight, and she was being taken down by Jandiroba. Now, Jalin Robertson is going to be the wrestler here and will chain things together. But that can be dangerous because Mackenzie Dern, she's comfortable on her back. She looks for submissions. She can find a submission. And let's look at Mackenzie Dern's past fights. I know that some of these losses have been closer to when she had a baby, and that kind of doesn't put Mackenzie Dern's athleticism in the best shape to come back and fight. But now that that's been in the past and she's gone through a few more fights, she's back into her championship level type of conditioning as an athlete. And against Mandaribas, armbar finish, Jandiroba, I'm giving the slight edge to Mackenzie Dern because I think she's going to have the more significant striking than Jalin Robertson. And Mackenzie Dern's going to have the submission threat. And Jalin Robertson, if she wants to grapple, she's going to put herself in submission opportunities for Mackenzie Dern. So in this case, I'm going to lean Mackenzie Dern here. I'm going to wait for the weigh-ins and the face-offs to make my final decision because Jalin Robertson is a very solid fighter. And in these women's fights, there's a way for Jalin Robertson can just bank some rounds from just controlling Mackenzie Dern if she gets her to the ground. So I'll make my final decision later in the week, but right now I'm going to go Mackenzie Dern via submission. Now for the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry. This fight, initial thoughts is you just assume Islam Makhachev's going to win after seeing how he won the belt against Jack Della Maddalena. Like, what is Ian Machado Garry going to do with his point fighting style? But if you take a closer look at how these fighters fight, their styles, their strengths and weaknesses, this can shape up to becoming a close fight round to round, and even Machado Garry winning some were stealing some rounds just because he was able to stay away from Islam Makhachev, and Makhachev not being able to track down Machado Garry early in the fight. And if that happens, this can be very close, possibly split decision. If Machado Garry uses that length, those kicks, the awkward timing, and very, very high IQ, smart fighter. He knows how to win rounds. He does his homework on his opponents and it seems like he has very good game plans versus every opponent that he faces. And against Islam Makhachev, it seems like Makhachev is unbeatable in the past few years. But, I mean, the Dustin Poirier fight, that was a grueling fight and was getting pieced up at times and was even cut in that fight. And against Machado Garry, who's standing a 6'3", 4 inches longer in the reach, there's a pathway for Machado Garry here to get an upset. And you can always make the comparisons, grappler, striker, who's going to win. We've seen that earlier this year. The great big boogeyman grappler, Khamzat Makhachev, versus the point fighting striker, Sean Strickland. We saw how that ended up. Khamzat was not able to grapple the way he wanted to later in the fight, with Sean Strickland being able to get away from the grappling and even grappling himself. There's some version of that fight could show up in this one. And I am not counting out Machado Garry. If Islam flattens Garry in any round, there is very good potential for a submission, finding a neck, finding a crank, a choke. Islam Makhachev, if he can club and sub Ian Garry off of a counter and just chase that anaconda choke or a Darce, like how we did against Dustin Poirier in the later rounds if Machado Garry gets tired. But honestly, I don't think I would take Islam Makhachev or parlay Islam Makhachev at -340. -340, -335. Some places he is -350 in that range. Yeah, Islam there. Let's look at Ian Garry. Ian Garry was a +250, went all the way up to +300, and he's now a +270. Honestly, if I were to bet this fight at all, I think I would live bet, watch the first round. As for the significant strikes, so Ian Garry's going to have the volume here. As for the grappling, Ian Garry has pretty good takedown defense. He's always moving away. He's going side to side. He's going in and out. He's making you guessing with the feints and the leg kicks and his oblique kicks, which is pretty dangerous weapon that he has. And he should be spamming those techniques on Islam any which way he can. He even has the eye poke in his arsenal. Ian Machado Garry will win by any means possible. He's got the John Jones DNA in him. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins via split decision or something like that in this fight, just how Sean Strickland was able to win. Honestly, the only bet that I would do here in a pre-fight, maybe Islam Makhachev submission. Let's see. I'm going back and forth on this. I want to see the face-offs. I'm probably going to end up, if I'm ever going to bet on this fight, I'll probably be looking at a live bet option. I want to see the first round. Makhachev by points, Garry points, Islam submission +200. Honestly, I'm going to say here, if there's anything that I would take before the fight even starts, I think this is the only bet that I would take pre-fight. Ian Machado Garry by points, I'll take a stab at it. I think that's what I would do personally. I don't know if I can trust Islam facing probably his hardest welterweight, just because of the way that Garry fights. Garry doesn't have to chase anything in this fight. He doesn't have to force anything. He can just keep fighting the way he does. And it's going to be Islam Makhachev who's going to have to adjust first to the stand-up and tracking down Garry. And as we've seen in the past, Garry is also adaptive himself. He can adapt in every fight. He can get knocked down in a fight and come back to win. He defended 2 for 10 takedowns of Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Rakhmonov is a bigger guy. Islam Makhachev, he is pretty solid as well. He's freakishly strong. And I could see Islam Makhachev by submission, maybe decision, but I think I just need to wait on it. I don't know. I'm going back and forth. The only one that I would bet pre-fight, I think, is Ian Machado Garry. I think I need to see the first round. I don't trust minus 335 Islam in this spot. I'm not too sure. I think Garry can actually pull it off. So if you got Islam in parlays, I think it's not a bad idea to hedge out with some Garry by points, honestly. So those are my thoughts on this fight. On UFC 330, Makhachev versus Machado Garry. Let's run it back one time. Myktybek Orolbai by any way he wants. I think he's going to get it. Ramiz Brahimaj by submission. Lucas Fernando, decision. Vicente Luque, submission. Donte Johnson, KO. Jalin Turner, KO. Joel Alvarez, I did say submission, but I'm going to say Joel Alvarez decision. Joel Alvarez decision. He doesn't really shoot for grappling, so I'll go for Joel Alvarez decision. Esteban Ribovics, TKO. Mansur Abdul-Malik, Dustin Stoltzfus. I'll say Mansur by decision, even though this has the biggest upset potential on this card, I think. Jose Ochoa, Charles Johnson. Is this going to a decision? Jose Ochoa can finish him, get the KO. I'll just say Jose Ochoa decision. Jillian Robertson, Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern by submission. Machado Garry, Islam Makhachev. I want to say Islam Makhachev decision, but I already said if I were anything pre-fight, I think the only bet I would take would be Garry via decision. I think I would have to see the face-offs and maybe even the first round to play with the money line in this fight. So yeah, those are my thoughts right now. Wow, I can't believe it. I can't believe Ian Machado Garry might actually be the champ against Islam. That would be something, wouldn't it? But yeah, those are my thoughts for this fight. And we'll be back next week for another fight card. This is Gerard, and I'm signing out. Peace.